nature lifted by a larger breath, plastic and passive to the all-shaping fire, answers the flaming Godhead's casual touch, immune from our inertia of response. It hears the word to which our hearts are deaf, adopts the seeing of immortal eyes, and, traveler on the roads of line and hue, pursues the spirit of beauty to its home. There's a lot to cover here. Oh. So we have, first of all, this nature, and Sri Aurobindo talks about nature being the seer will, God's power of self-becoming. So this is in the book of the Traveler of the Worlds, the second canto, the Kingdom of Subtle Matter. We see that Aswapati has a nature lifted by a larger breath. That nature is plastic and even passive to the all-shaping fire. This is very, very interesting. Mother says, that which can easily change its form is plastic. Figuratively, it is suppleness, a capacity of adaptation to circumstances and necessities. So, actually, Mother says a little bit more too. She says, and the vibration which I feel and see gives the feeling of a fire. That's probably what the Vedic rishis translated as the flame. In the human consciousness, in man, in matter, they always spoke of a flame. It is indeed a vibration with the intensity of a higher fire. And I think, Vladimir, you have to speak to us about this all-shaping fire that answers the flaming Godhead's casual touch. Vladimir?
Yes, this casual word is a very interesting word, yes?
Casual, yes, casual is a very interesting term because you wouldn't think it's casual. You would think it's a direct touch or something like that, but it is casual.
Casual says something that the divine is actually free to choose whatever development. Yeah, it does not demand it, as it were. It kind of gives anumati, gives the sanction. Yeah. So
Yes.
to the nature which is trying to make things work. So there is a gap. There is a freedom in choice, in the choice which the divine chooses to do. And that word casual brings the sense. I look at it every time when we read this.
Yes. Could you say something more about the fire and the flame?
This is also amazing because this all-shaping fire, Sri Aurobindo speaks in the Kena Upanishad on again about the attitude which our senses have to take, and they should become consciously passive and receptive of the spirit which is kind of flaming through. Yeah? So it is the same idea. If our senses are too preoccupied with their own self-satisfaction, running always to satisfy themselves, then they would miss that touch, that casual touch, and that all-shaping fire which is there. So they would not permit it to work itself, its own, power out through themselves. So they have to become plastic and passive. And this is nature.
Very, very important. Passive, yes.
And because of that, receptive.
Yes. So we now have that we see that he is immune from our inertia of response. That's a very powerful word, isn't it? Immune, totally protected against our inertia of response. And therefore it hears the word to which our hearts are deaf. It even adopts the seeing of immortal eyes. And then he says, and traveler on the roads of line and hue, it pursues the spirit of beauty to its home. Oh, it's so magnificent. So let's carry on a bit. Thus we draw near to the all wonderful. Now, the all wonderful here is capitalized. And when it's capitalized, as I've said many times, this hyphenated word, all wonderful, which is used almost 50 times in Savitri, it's not just the wonderful or the supreme wonderful, it's the all wonderful. It covers everything. And so following his rapture in things as sign and guide. And then that line that we shall never forget. Beauty is his footprint, showing us where he has passed. Love is his heartbeat's rhythm in mortal breasts. Happiness, a smile on his adorable face. Well, 3 lines that should never be forgotten. That if we follow the divine rapture in things, using it as a sign and a guide, and then there is a semicolon there, and we see that beauty is his footprint, showing us where he has passed. Love is his heartbeat's rhythm in our mortal breasts, and happiness is the smile on his adorable face. So extraordinary. Happiness, is, of course, is a state, not a trait. It isn't a long-lasting, permanent feature or personality trait, but a more fleeting, changeable state. It's equated with feeling pleasure or contentment, meaning that happiness is not to be confused with joy, ecstasy, bliss, or other more intense feelings. And yet, we're looking at his face, the adorable face. Interesting word, adorable, something that we can adore. Adorable is often used, I think, too pedantically. And we see that happiness is the smile, just the smile on his adorable face. We'll continue. A communion of spiritual entities, a genius of creative immanence, makes all creation deeply intimate. A 4th dimension of aesthetic sense, where all is in ourselves, ourselves in all. To the cosmic wideness, realigns our souls. This communion of spiritual entities has got to come about in our world. Without it, we're just going to be passing time or facing terrible situations. You know that Mother speaks of these things that are possible. But if there is a communion of sharing thoughts, feelings, spiritual fellowship, a communion of spiritual entities. Now, these entities are real. Mother says an entity is a personality or an individuality. And here we get into this problem of the ego. Is the ego a spiritual entity? I would say no, until it begins to be transformed into an egoless servant of the divine. So this communion of spiritual entities, this genius of creative immanence. Immanence, of course, is the indwelling Godhead in the universe, in time. And what does it do? Well, it makes all creation deeply intimate. And then he puts a colon there so we can understand this, that this next line that follows is a part of all of that. A fourth dimension of aesthetic sense, where all is in ourselves in all, to the cosmic wideness, realigns our souls. Well, Sri Aurobindo writes voluminously in The Life Divine, and even in the Synthesis of Yoga, about our reaching the point where all and everything is in us, and we are in everything. And that is the divine presence in us. And that allows us to realign our souls to the cosmic wideness. So the psychic being is constantly in touch with this immanent divine. And this immanence, again, this condition of existing or remaining within. It's not the immanent itself. He uses the word immanence here. And he says it's a creative immanence. So this communion of spiritual entities, spiritual beings, is a genius along with the genius of creative immanence, makes all creation deeply intimate. And I believe that this is what science is trying to reach now. We have many great philosophers who have expressed this. And of course, Zen has many, many quotations deeply significant of this. A fourth dimension, however, of aesthetic sense. Now it's a fourth dimension of aesthetic sense. And in that dimension, everything is in us, and we are in everything else. And therefore our souls are realigned to the cosmic wideness. We could say something here about the divine, who is in us and is in everything, and yet is beyond everything. Therefore, we cannot label the divine the way we would label humanity. If he wants to be dark, he can be dark. If he wants to be all light, he can be all light. But we cannot ascribe anything actually to the divine. So we'll continue on a little bit. Realigned, of course, is brought into a line. Our souls are brought into this cosmic wideness, realigning our souls. A kindling rapture joins the seer and seen. Kindling is interesting here because It has to do with lighting up or illuminating. An illuminating rapture joins the seer and the seen. I think that many of us have perhaps had this experience when Sri Aurobindo, a mother, comes to us and we see this kindling rapture and we feel maybe perhaps not totally united with them, but we have entered a different world, a world of the subtle physical, where we are in some ways united with the Mother or Sri Aurobindo, or you can say the Divine Presence. Now, after that semicolon, the craftsman and the craft grown inly one. I remember Madhav Pandit used to speak about this word inly, which means intimately and deeply within. So the craftsman and the craft grown inly one. And what happens? They achieve perfection by the magic throb and passion of their close identity. Now, I want to continue on here because this is extremely important. All that we slowly piece from gathered parts, or by long labor stumblingly evolve, is there self-born by its eternal right. So basically, our lives are a piecing together from gathered parts. We gather an education, we gather a family, we gather an ideology, we gather different experiences, and we piece them together, and we think we know something. We don't know anything. Or even by long labor. Now, he doesn't say we evolve, he says we stumblingly evolve. In other words, we stumble constantly and have to pick ourselves up again and again. But what is happening there? Well, everything there is self-born by its eternal right. And I've talked to you previously about self-born. And in Savitri, we see that she is self-born and Aswapati is self-born. So everything that we try to do, that we attempt to do, that we piece together from all these different parts of experience in our lives, or somehow we evolve by a long labor stumblingly, is there in that place, self-born by its eternal right. And then he says, oh, this is so incredible. In us too, the intuitive fire can burn. An agent light, it is coiled in our folded hearts. On the celestial levels is its home. Descending, it can bring those heavens here. But then he's going to put a caveat there. So let us see here. Now, in us too, the intuitive fire can burn. Well, that fire is something of spiritual vision or perception. It's an intuitive fire, and we know that the intuitive mind is just beneath the overmind. So we see that an agent light, it's a representative light. It's like an emissary. It as an adjective, we can say this light is an agent light. It's something that acts or exerts power. And here it's acting or exerting light. And where is it? It is coiled in our folded hearts. My gosh. When we can touch it, and when we can feel it, and when we can bring it to the front, life changes completely. There is no longer any negativity, any darkness, any evil in us. But he does say that on the celestial levels is its home. Descending, it can bring those heavens here. And then he cautions us. He says, but rarely burns the flame, nor burns for long. This is my experience in life also, that somehow we cannot hold that fire day to day, hour by hour, minute by minute. Yolini once told us that this yoga is now minute to minute. Imagine that. Mother says, if you go deep enough into a sufficiently complete silence from all outer things, you will find within you that flame about which I often speak. And in this flame, you will see your destiny. You will see the aspiration of centuries, which has been concentrated gradually to lead you through countless births to the great day of realization. That preparation, which has been made through thousands of years and is reaching its culmination. See how she lifts us up. She speaks of the joy it calls from those diviner heights. She speaks of just that it brings brief, magnificent reminiscences. Now, reminiscences are, of course, remembrances of things past, but when we go deeply into ourselves, we have to see that much of the past we don't want to remember or we shouldn't remember. But there are these remembrances, these recollections of past events and experiences which have entered our psychic being and are moving us towards the future. And then he continues, and high, splendid glimpses of interpreting thought, but not the utter vision and delight. And he's going to tell us more because he wants to speak about this veil. A veil is kept. Something is still held back, lest captive of the beauty and the joy, our souls forget to the highest to aspire. So in that realm, many people are caught. If you have that liberation, that moksha, if you've had that experience of the divine, you may not want to leave there. You may not want to come back to the earth. You may want to forget about the earth, as the Buddhists do, and just live in that vibration. This joy that it calls from those diviner heights, and that joy brings brief, magnificent reminiscences, and it also brings high, splendid glimpses of interpreting thought. But it's still thought, huh? It's not the utter vision and delight. Why is it not that? It's not that because a veil is kept and something is still held back. Because if we become captivated by that beauty and that joy, our souls may forget to aspire to the highest. I would like to end today with someone reading those lines where we began, because it's such an important passage. Can someone read it for me?
A nature lifted by a larger breath, plastic and passive to the all-shaping fire, answers the flaming Godhead's casual touch. Immune from our inertia of response, it hears the word to which our hearts are deaf, adopts the seeing of immortal eyes, and, traveler on the roads of line and hue, pursues the spirit of beauty to its home. Thus, we draw near to the all-wonderful, following his rapture in things as sign and guide. Beauty
Can I have that line again, please? Following his rapture in things as sign and guide. Okay?
following his rapture in things as sign and guide. Beauty is his footprint showing us where he has passed. Love is his heartbeat's rhythm in mortal breasts. Happiness, the smile on his adorable face. A communion of spiritual entities, a genius of creative immanence, makes all creation deeply intimate, a fourth dimension of aesthetic sense where all is in ourselves, ourselves in all. To the cosmic wideness realigns our souls. A kindling rapture joins the seer and seen, the craftsman and the craft grown inly one, achieve perfection by the magic throb and passion of their close identity. All that we slowly piece from gathered parts or by long labor stumblingly evolve is there self born by its eternal right. In us too, the intuitive fire can burn, an agent light. It is coiled in our folded hearts. On the celestial levels is its home. Descending, it can bring those heavens here, but rarely burns the flame nor burns for long. The joy it calls from those diviner heights brings brief, magnificent reminiscences and high, splendid glimpses of interpreting thought, but not the utter vision and delight. A veil is kept, something is still held back, lest, captives of the beauty and the joy, our souls forget to the highest to aspire.
Very well read. Very well read. Thank you all